world, let's chat it up. We're talking competitions, uniforms, and all of the above. It's the Cheer Mom. Yes, the Cheer Mom. Cheer Mom. Cheer Moms, your podcast is on.
Do you have a work voice? I do wonder if I have a work voice. I think I probably do. I don't know. But I know some people have a work voice. Like my husband, he has a work voice. And sometimes we work together and it's hard for me to keep a straight face because he'll use his work voice or he'll say things that are totally fine and are not wrong. But I wrinkle my nose and I'm like, who are you? What are you saying? Or you know that like meme that's going around that's like there should be a bring your friend to work day so we can all see what our friends do for a living. Because we all like have things that we do every day that nobody in our personal life knows about. Kind of. Like all of my best friends, with the exception of maybe one or two, I don't know what they do during the day. Like I know their profession, but that's why I've started asking, like, what kind of emails did you get today? Just so I have a glimpse of the whole of my friends and their lives. It's kind of like that episode of Friends where Chandler had a work laugh and Monica goes with him to a work event and he does his work laugh and she's like, what was that? And he's like, oh, it's my work laugh. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this. She ends up having a work laugh at the end, but I'm kind of like that with my husband. I'm like, what? Who are you? Anyway, speaking of hard work, I know that all the moms in the world are in the thick of December, as they call it. End of school, end of sports, teacher gifts, finals, AP tests, wrapping up the school year, getting ready for camps and vacations. And it's just crazy. If you see a mom around, just give her a hug, or maybe she's not a hugger. You can just be like, if you liked hugs, I would give one to you. Or give your favorite mom friend a cookie, because Lord knows we all need a hug and a cookie during this time of year. And especially cheer moms, because cheer moms never get a break. You leave Orlando or Florida or wherever you're competing at the end of the season and basically go right home into tryouts. Abby left Summit one year. We landed on Monday afternoon, and I think Monday evening she had a tryout clinic for high school. So fun times in cheer. It just never stops. And like I said, I have tryouts on the brain. I have end of season / beginning of season stuff at the forefront. And so we're going to talk about reflections and get some tryout advice. And I thought first it would be kind of great if I pulled some of the greatest, smartest tumbling mental block advice together from the podcast and put them in one episode. Now, I know that I might be forgetting one or two. We've talked about mental blocks so much because it's such an important topic, and it's a topic that you guys are concerned about. How do I support my kid? How does my kid work through this? And for all of the experts that we've had on and all of the people that have spoken about it, I've learned something new every single time. So even if your athlete isn't currently struggling with a mental block, you may be able to pass this on to a cheer mom friend or just tuck it in your back pocket for if or when, and most athletes suffer some version of this, your athlete goes through, if or when your athlete goes through the same thing. So first up, we're going to start with licensed therapist, retired cheerleader, sought after speaker in the industry. Oh my gosh, I'm going to a conference later this summer and I finally get to meet Jeff in person. He's the keynote speaker and I am so excited. Jeff Benson, he is incredible and he talks about the way that the brain works and not just mental blocks or tumbling blocks, but really the science behind it. So here is advice from Jeff Benson. Have you ever met someone with a tattoo and asked them why they chose that specific tattoo? they probably had a story about how it's significant to them. I have 3 tattoos, and they all have a very deep and meaningful significance to me. And every time someone comments on one, I'm like, thanks. And then I give them like a 5-minute explanation about why it's important to me. Even if tattoos aren't your thing, I think that we all need little encouragements and things that are specific to us that remind us of the things we love most and the words that motivate us to keep going. And that's why I started TCC Jewelry. The necklaces, bracelets, and rings are simple and engraved with little words that have special meaning, like hit 0, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 1, 3, 5, 7, and more. And check out the new collections like the Faith Collection and introducing the Dance Collection, baseball, softball, and volleyball collections. Get something special for yourself or that special athlete or coach in your life today by visiting tccjewelry.com and enter coupon code CheerMomPod for 15% off your order. That's tccjewelry.com and enter coupon code CheerMomPod for 15% off.
So I do this with all of my athletes. So if you happen to be watching, it'll be easier, but I'll try and describe it. Essentially, think of your thumb, wrap it in the palm of your hand. This is what Dr. Daniel Siegel would call your little brain, or science, it's your amygdala. When I talk to athletes, I explain it to them as a barking dog. So your amygdala's job is to keep you safe. We've had it in our brains. All animals have it in their brain. It's literally how we stay alive. We are descendants of tribes of very strong amygdalas. That's why we're alive today. So when you're trying to flip backwards, which, come on, moms, dads out there, how many of you are, I'll spot you. You're not going to die. I'll spot you. You want to do it? No, because it's
Right.
stupid. Is it fun, kids? Yeah, but it's dumb. It's not biologically beneficial to us. It's not climbing trees to get the berries. It's not swimming. It's not hunting. It's not the things that, like, fundamentally that we need to stay alive. It's a fun thing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what ends up happening, talking about that hand model, if you take your 4 fingers and wrap them over your little brain or your barking dog, this in the front of our brain is your prefrontal cortex. Medium brain is what I call it, or your wise owl. When your wise owl and your barking dog is on, you're making good choices, right? That's what our prefrontal cortex does. Prefrontal cortex, or our wise owl, makes good choices, plans ahead. You and I were talking about backup plans. It knows our habits and it can help us make better choices next time. Hey, in case we don't remember from science, your prefrontal cortex is under construction until you're 25 years old. So what ends up happening in performance anxiety, kids who have struggles with emotional regulation, mental blocks, let's go the whole gamut, it's because the wise owl flies away when the barking dog goes crazy. So no longer are your kids, or even us, when our husbands tell us, why don't you just try this when we're upset? And we're like, I didn't ask for you to solve it. Barking dog made our wise owl fly away. Number 1, when your child has flipped their lid, this is any parenting advice, but we're going to talk about mental blocks. When your child has flipped their lid, doing any sort of cognitive, how are you feeling? What happened? What's wrong? Maybe you should, none of that is helpful. Give them 15 minutes to get their lid on. If you want to help them, this is advice number 1, empathize. Hug your child. To add on to that, some like the mind part of My Body Cheer, the psychology, lay down with your child. Why, Jeff? Well, if you are sciencey like me, what ends up happening is that your amygdala, when you're laying down, feels safer and you feel protected. Hey, this is some relationship advice. When you and your spouse are arguing, go lay down and talk.
Wow.
Your amygdalas are less likely to be activated because you feel safer. So when your child has flipped their lid, if they need or they want that compassion and the empathy, lay down with your child. Hug them. Empathize. Let them know, wow, Name the feeling. Wow, you look really sad right now. Oh, I can tell you're really frustrated. Trust me, I get it. I was the kid. Leave me alone. I'm not angry. I'm not frustrated. And all you have to do is say, I can tell you're hurting and I love you. When you, because mirror neurons, what the person that we're connected to does, we do, right? When your child flips their lid, you're likely to flip your lid. I notice myself
Mhm.
do it with Haley. So
Especially if
what we're
they're
trying,
like me, if they're a miniature version of me.
it's
Yeah.
very easy to trigger each other. So remember, your prefrontal cortex has all the potential. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it has all the neurons and the pathways necessary to make better choices when you're really stressed. So get your lid on, model for your child getting their lid on. Number one, that empathy, compassion, and go lay down with your kid. Number two, stay in your lane. What do you
Mhm.
mean by that, Jeff? Your child, when they're on the tumble track, giving them form corrections, telling them to just go, putting on that coaching hat, I get it.
Yeah, I wince
And
'cause that's so hard to do.
in a lot of ways, it is helpful. But I can tell you, for an athlete who's going through fear, 99% of their amygdalas feel pressure. And deep down, if we unpeeled all the layers of onions, it is, I question if I'm lovable when I'm not tumbling. I question
Oof.
my value and my worth when I'm not tumbling. So when mommy or daddy are coaching me, that hat, even if you don't mean it, because I know no parent means it, it's received as a judgment to your child, and it feels to them, not all of them, but most of them, that your love is conditional.
Yeah, especially for those high achiever, like you talked about, perfectionists, their value, I know those because I'm a perfectionist and I grew up as a overachieving perfectionist and I call myself a recovering perfectionist. But yeah, your value is tied to how well you could do something or how well you achieve something.
That's exactly right. So if I am in this vulnerable space and you're like, I see it as critiquing me, I feel like you don't love me.
Yes. Yep.
So that would be number two, stay in your lane. Number three, help your child learn how to put words to their feelings. So it's really about understanding and articulating what it is they're feeling. How do we do that, Jeff? I talk about ladder steps, low to high. I inferred this earlier with Haley, like at the top of the ladder when Haley, my daughter, turns 18, I want her to be able to go to, I mean, even top. Let's go even further. I want Haley, when she's at a job, to be able to go into her boss's office and say, that person, that man, is getting paid more than me and I do a better job. I do just as much. My value system is that I want to empower her. So, what's the ladder step underneath? At 18, I want her to be able to go and talk to a teacher. In eighth grade, I want her to be able to talk to a teacher. But I'm not going to tell her to say the same thing at 13 as I want her to do at 30. Ladder step. Let's go
Mhm.
back into and dive into ourselves and our kids. Give your child the tools to start challenging themselves. Okay, you won't go and talk to your coach. Will you email your coach? Will you give a phone call to your coach if you can't talk to them in person? Will you text your coach? No, none of those. Will you come in with me live in front of your coach while I talk to your coach? Where can you go? And that's just one example, parents. I want this everywhere in your child's life. Oh, my child struggles with this. Ladder step. Help them get to your end goal. Don't parent them at the end goal. One level above, wherever they're at. So that would be
Mhm.
number three. Number four, emotional regulation. Teaching your child, once you have, I'm going to jump to number three really quick again. An example, because we all like give me the example of how do I do that. Being able to tell your child or say, it looks like you're frustrated. It looks like you're angry. When you do this, it tells me that you're not being honest. Like you parents, you know what your kids do.
Yeah.
Let them know their quirks and the things that let you know how they're really feeling. Don't in your brain do it. Ask them then. Are you feeling worried, stressed, nervous? That is going to move them up the ladder. Our kids nowadays do not have strong self-awareness or the ability to put words and articulate how they feel. Number 3, successful in life, get over a mental block, get that. Which brings us to number 4, is being able to teach them then how to emotionally regulate. So once, number 1, I love you. I get it. I understand. I put words to it. Number 3, what I would like you to do you want to keep feeling like this, Susie? No, I hate this feeling. Okay. What could you do next time that could be different? And I'm not saying form, technique. Mom and dad, your lane, emotional regulation, working hard, being a woman of your word or a man of your word, being a good person. That's your lane, right? It is not get your arms up in that back tuck, throw that back handspring. That's not your lane. But Jeff, I want my kid to do that. Does your kid, Kristen, get more successful in life? Are they a good person or a better person if they throw their tumbling?
No.
No. You're thinking, or parents, but they're happy. Yeah, temporarily.
Yeah, it's that instant gratification that makes us think they'll be successful. Yeah.
But when you say just throw it, stop thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how many of your kids are happy when you've done that. Anybody? You want to email me and let me know? Yeah, I told my kid just to do it, and they loved me. They gave me a hug, and they're like, Dad, I never thought of doing that. Thank you so much for helping me. They scream at you. They flip their lid because they already know. So number 4, teach them how to emotionally regulate, which is that under construction, wise owl, increase the knowledge of their wise owl. Teach them how to function lovingly, successfully in life. Give them perspective on how struggle can make it better, which all moves to number 5, the foundation of my company, Mind Body Cheer, and my value system. Foster a growth mindset in your child.
Oh, I could just listen to Jeff talk and illustrate these things all day long and really go back to listen to both of the episodes that he has done. The first one, he talks with me about mental block advice and really gives a foundation behind these concepts that he's talking about just in this short clip. But he also has fantastic insight on toxic cultures at gyms and addresses that with me too. It's actually one of the most popular episodes of the entire podcast. Next up, Coach Eric, the Tumble Chef. Once again, he surprised me with his answer. I never would have expected this kind of answer about working through a mental block or a tumbling block. He goes at it from a physical perspective and just how much strength and conditioning can play into strong tumbling skills.
What I tell coaches is don't just have people do skills, actually learn how the skill breaks down and what parts of the body is responsible for doing the parts that are broken down. Like deconstruction is everything for me because I believe, or think of it like eating food. If I gave you an entire steak to eat, you wouldn't be able to. You would have to cut it in pieces and break it down so it's easier to digest. I think tumbling is the same way. So I do believe that there is a scientific component to it, breaking it down so people can understand it easier. But I think that since that doesn't happen, even if an athlete gets the skill once or twice, I believe that a lot of the mental blocks that you see in the sport is that people are trying to do this entire thing all at once and not be able to break it down into smaller, I would say less overwhelming pieces so they can move forward in how they're trying to do the skill.
Genius. Okay, so you've talked about some of those pieces, the strength, the flexibility. What are the other pieces or ingredients to a successful tumbler, whether they're level 1, whether they're just starting out, or whether they're a level 5 or 6 athlete?
So for me, one of the things that I'm really big on is mental toughness, right? So think about how all these athletes, they like, man, I want to be on a world's team and I want to go to worlds. But I don't think a lot of people take into account the expectation and the pressure that comes along with just being on a world's team. It's not you
Yes.
just doing a full, it's you doing a full every run through. It's you being able to show up in the brightest of lights and be able to do your skill at the maximum of your ability. That is pressure. You have to be able to deal with that. So, one of the things that I tell my athletes is you are going to be who you are in the gym more so, or I'll put it this way, who you are in the gym is going to be directly reflected of who you are outside of the gym. So what you want to do is actually be mentally preparing yourself so when you get into the gym, you don't have to try to be someone that you've never been. You can be exactly who you've been the entire time. Because if you're outside the gym and you're anxious and you're not confident and you don't do things that you don't want to do, who do you think you're going to be in the gym? You're going to be that very same person. So I would say more than anything else, more than drills, more than strength, all of those things, a mental foundation in which you can lean on is more important than anything else. I want athletes to be a fan of themselves. I want them to like themselves, love themselves, believe in themselves more than anything else in the world. Because if you do that, the skills are easy. Because if you like yourself enough, one fall won't take you out. One second place or third place or even last place won't be the end of you if you like yourself enough because you believe that you are better than even if you come in last place or you come in whatever, that doesn't validate you, you validate you. So being a fan of yourself, being mentally tough enough to deal with not the highs, because everybody's good here. What do you do when everything is down here? Can you bounce back? That to me is the number one ingredient for being an amazing athlete. We as people have been taught that making mistakes are bad and failure is bad from the day we probably are born. In most cases, success is not set up in this linear, if you're winning, you're winning, if you're losing, you're losing. It's actually more up and down and actually more down than up. So when you say an athlete with a certain personality tends to get skills faster, it's usually the athletes who don't care about falling. Like if you
Mhm.
can find an athlete who's willing to fall, the chances that they'll learn how to fly are far higher. And if you find an athlete who is super talented but afraid to make mistakes, they'll get stagnant because they don't want to try new things in which makes them uncomfortable. So what I try to do is try to change athletes' relationship with failure. One of the things I tell my athletes is you can't disappoint me. I expect mistakes to happen. I actually welcome them. And the funny thing is when I do that, in most cases, the athlete seems more relaxed and they find themselves doing far more than they were doing before because they're not afraid of the I'm letting him down or I'm letting my mom down. I'm like, I don't care about none of that. Let's just get better today. And that's it.
I love that. Change your relationship with failure in such a perfectionist performance sport that we are involved in the world of cheer. We have to become familiar with failure. And I don't think that we do that enough. And that is a theme with all of these experts is retraining our brains and thinking highly enough of ourselves to look at failure and fear in a different way. And that is exactly what some may call the queen herself, Debbie Love, says too. Now, word is that she retired, but I saw her at a conference not long ago doing a talk. What do we say? This sport just doesn't let go. Debbie Love was really a pioneer and is still a pioneer and a trailblazer in talking about this subject and tackling tumbling skills in a different way. Listen to what she has to say.
With the growing social media, everybody has to have that perfect look on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and everything. And we're afraid to be transparent anymore. We are refused to be vulnerable to other people, seeing who we really are. I think that the social media is a big part of it because it portrays all the superstars as perfection.
That's a good point.
Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And that toleration of mistakes is one thing that we as parents need to work on with our kids. One of the ways we can do that is don't compliment the skills that your kids do, compliment the character qualities that they have, such as you're such a hard worker. I'm so proud of you. You work so diligently. You're so persevering. think if we all felt that way, how motivated we would be to continue to learn and to grow. Whereas sometimes I think the kids today get demotivated because they can't be perfect. So that's one of my big,
Interesting.
big, big things. We need to have a growth mindset. Many of us have a fixed mindset that says, I'm always going to be this way. I can only be so good and that's it. Going toward more of a growth mindset, which is I can work as hard and I can do anything I want.
I think we all, athletes, parents, kids, adults alike, have an area where we can work on having a better growth mindset. Might be a good conversation to have with our kids now that I'm thinking about it. Last but certainly not least, I keep wanting to say like one of my favorites. Like these are all my favorites. Coach Lain Lee talks about how other factors in our kids' lives can impact their performance on the cheer mat. And the definition of what a mental block really is. Check it out.
Using the term that everybody's familiar with, mental blocks are never if this then that. They're never caused by one thing. What I refer to and what a lot of sports psychologists or people in that field that I study, they call performance anxieties, are always an accumulation of events, right? The body and the brain keep a score, a tally board of everything that you experience as a human being. It could be tripping up the stairs, it could be burning yourself on the stove, it could be falling on your back coming out of a roundup back handspring, right? But you are taking note of everything. It could be someone breaking your heart when you ask them to a dance, right? It's everything that we experience. Having your parents divorce at a young age, all of these things are just kept on this imaginary scoreboard. And a performance anxiety is always that last notch or that last tick on that scoreboard where it was too much and it's time to take a break. But yeah, when it comes to sitting down with a parent or an athlete, or usually it's both, it starts every single time with just listening and seeing what they have to say. And then I start to put the puzzle together after I feel like I've got all the pieces laid out before me. For instance, today I was just speaking with a young lady who seems to internalize a lot of what she goes through at cheer practice. And this is my third time speaking with her, so it was really interesting to say, okay, let's dive a little deeper into that. Why do you feel solely responsible when you guys get yelled at or reprimanded by your coaches? Like, why do you feel like you're the only one in the stunt group responsible for the stunt not hitting? Why do you feel guilty that you were removed from your tumbling pass when everybody else also has things that they struggle with? And without giving too much of her information away, but like it has not everything to do with cheer or tumbling or even her coaches. It has a lot to do with a learning disability that she struggles with outside of cheer. And she also internalizes criticism from teachers and friends and parents. And so it's never that one thing that you think it is. And since we're a performance-based sport, most people look to the performance as the problem. Right? Oh, she can't do her round off back handspring. I think it's because she fell that one time or she saw another girl fall. That's usually the only explanation that I hear from parents. And it's so much bigger than that. So yeah, so that's why we usually end up diving deep. We follow as I like to call it, the trail of whys. And what I do differently based on my observation is that I try to look at the holistic picture, the mental, the physical, the emotional. See how they're tying together, because everything that we do as humans is intrinsically intertwined, right? So it really helps to paint as complete of a picture as possible to really begin to help deduce what the problem could be. By definition, a mental block is a person's inability to recall mental information or perform a mental action. The word physical is not in that definition for a very specific reason. And that is because our physical learned behaviors, once learned and locked and loaded in there, they never leave us for life. They go to a place called the implicit long-term memory. And you can think about it like this. Explicit long-term memory is what we use. It's a two-way street. It's what we use when we're having discussions, we're talking and learning from each other, or teaching and learning. That's explicit long-term memory. Implicit long-term memory is a one-way street. I always say it's like pulling up an app on your phone and then letting the app run. I have no idea how to program an app. I have no idea how an app runs. But I know that when I press that button, it's going to open and it works. And when it doesn't, I get frustrated, right? because I don't understand it. Implicit long-term memory is similar to that. It's a one-way street. We are recalling how to do something. It's why we have the saying, Kristen, it's like riding a bike. When somebody says that, you know exactly what they mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Your body knows how to do it.
Your body knows
Yeah.
how to do it. And so it's inaccurate to call our inability to perform, and I shouldn't even say inability, our reluctance to perform a physical skill. It's inaccurate to call it a mental block because we don't forget that information. You'll be 85 years old and still remember how to do a mental block, how to do a back handspring or a back tuck or ride a bike. I ask the athletes who come to me with mental blocks all the time, I say, listen, I have a 3-year-old daughter. Could you teach her how to break down how to do a back handspring for her? And they're always like, yeah. I'm like, so then it's not a mental block because you're not failing to recall that information or perform the mental action of remembering.
Interesting stuff. Now, you guys, these are just highlights of a couple of minutes from each of these experts' episode. I'm going to link them in the show notes. It is worth, if you missed any of these, it is worth going back and listening to the full episode. It's full of all kinds of advice for athletes and for us parents trying to support our kids through these challenges. So go back and listen. They are pure gold. I cannot thank them enough. And whether you are in tryout evaluation season, driving to a private lesson, or just sitting in your car in the parking lot with that dome light on, just listening to this podcast, I'm with you. My heart is with you. Thank you for listening. Please take the time to leave a review. And until next time, remember, it's just cheerleading.
What up, party people? This is Jason Larkins, host of the Let's Talk Cheer podcast, and I've teamed up with Kristen Wheeler of the Cheer Mom podcast and Dan Cotton of the Cheer Biz podcast.
That's right. Hey, everybody, Kristen here. We know that you love cheer, so why not dive into more perspectives? Tune into my podcast, the Cheer Mom podcast, for cheer issues spoken from the parent's perspective. Then head over to Dan's podcast, the Cheer Biz podcast, to learn from a gym owner on how to run a successful cheer business. And of course, don't miss the Let's Talk Cheer podcast featuring Jason Larkins, the one that we all know and love, where they talk about cheer from a coach's perspective.
Which means whether you're a coach, a cheer parent, or a gym owner, we've got you covered. Find all 3 podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay tuned for new episodes each week.